Hey, what's up, Exit the Matrix family? Bob here. Hey guys, I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for joining me on this morning talk. There's going to be a little more noise in the background than usual. It's raining pretty good here on my way to work this Tuesday morning. Yesterday was a day to remember those of, who have gone before us, great grandfathers and such that fought for this country to, preserve what they, good values, at least good old American values, right? And, obviously a lot's changed since then, right? Wow. So far, this nation's fallen and the rest of the world with it. And the reason is because, we've got a lot of psychopaths ruling this world. And now what used to be experiments on small scales done by the CIA and intelligence agencies and stuff like that, they've started to carry out against the whole population. And what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about MK Ultra. Some of you may have heard here recently that Tulsi Gabbard, she had the JFK files and the MK Ultra files, and she was going through that stuff, and I think that the plan was they were going to release a lot of this stuff to the public. Well, the CIA swooped up in there and grabbed up the files, and then now she's resigning, right? So we're obviously not going to get any disclosure on the MK Ultra projects, and there's a reason for that, folks. It's because it used to be that when they were doing like Project Artichoke and all these experiments on how to do trauma-based mind control on people, it used to be done on a small scale, and it was the military was trying to figure out how to break people's psyche down, rebuild their, a lot of times rebuilding split personalities within them, that they could make those split personalities like trained assassins, basically. And so the person could be living a normal life, but when they got certain trigger words and stuff, it would switch the brain over to that other personality that they developed because of the trauma, the trauma. So it was a way to control people through trauma. And it was meant for military means to create like assassins and stuff like that, right? People that carry out special, assignments and stuff. And a lot of times the person wouldn't even know that they were going to be doing it until, once they were, trigger words or other things would happen, and that would switch on that other side of them that was trained to do, what they needed them to do. And of course, later on, out of the MK Ultra stuff, we had a delving into human consciousness and all that. You had, of course, the Project Stargate, and you had the soldiers for the CIA and the government, military intelligence, that were they were able to astral project their consciousness and stuff. And these guys were like special psychic soldiers, essentially, and trying to also like spy on the Russian facilities and all that, just by astral projection and projecting their consciousness to other places and viewing what was going on, spying, essentially, like psychic spying. And the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats, that was actually based off of this group of psyche soldiers, and I know, of course, the movie, they kind of made it into like a comedy, right? But it actually was real. It was all, and they had a lot of success, actually. And then of course, there's been many other studies and projects they've had that have spun off of that. To the point now where they were even working with the Robert Monroe Institute and a lot of their techniques on how to, because the Monroe Institute in the 70s and stuff, they were doing, they'd come up with binaural beats and other things, like other, like different ways to get people to go into the right, state. Was it like theta bait, theta waves, state, but where they could, their body was asleep essentially, but the consciousness could separate from the body and, astral project, or some even say it's actually not astral projecting. I guess there's different types of OBEs. There's the one where the person creates like a thought form to leave the body, and then there's some where they can just biolocate their consciousness, and then there's others where they say literally it's like their whole conscious being is able to step out of the body, and the only thing keeping them connected to the body is the what you've heard termed the silver string or the silver cord, right? It's like a connection that the silver cord, folks. Look, we all we are all tied to our body, that silver cord, but once that cord's cut, you can't go back to the body. It's now well known that when you sleep, you're astral projecting, you're sometimes even with lucid dreaming, you're doing out-of-body explorations into other thought forms. Sometimes they're thought forms that you've created. Sometimes they're like collective conscious thought forms, right? That's where sometimes you can run into somebody in the real life, but in a dream, and you both like have the same dream. That's because you're meeting up in another construct or thought form outside of the, separate from the body, essentially. Of course, all is consciousness, so that means all is connected, even in the out-of-body state. But see, most people don't understand all these things. See, the government's known, folks, for a long time that all this stuff's real. And I think that's why they don't care about carrying on their wars and carrying on all of their, their psyops against humanity. They don't mind, if they feel like they have to dismiss a large amounts of the world's population, or even their own nation's population, or try to displace their native population with foreigners from typically countries we've been bombing and rabble rousing. So then we get all those lovely people from third world countries pouring into our country, and then they put them right on the government dole right away, so that the taxpayers are paying for these people to live here too. It's quite an amazing thing, really, how evil and psychopathic these people are, folks. But see, they understand that we are not humans. I just did an article about this. I shared it to some groups on Facebook. It went pretty well. But see, they understand that we are conscious beings, and that we're immortal, and that consciousness is just temporarily tapping into this construct we call Earth in this lower third dimension. It's a consciousness projected into the human body, the vessel, through the pineal gland. And of course, the brain does not create consciousness. The brain is just the operating system that operates the body. And it for the most part, it manages the body so that consciousness does not have to control every little aspect of the body. That's your subconscious, of course. And, a lot of your motor skills and all that's automatic. It's because it's all programmed. It's programmed to be automatic. And see, the government's known all this, folks, okay? And so they don't care about taking vessels out, because they understand on a deeper level that there is no such thing as human beings per se, that human beings are just a vessel that consciousness uses to immerse itself into this dimension. And they understand all this, so that's why a lot of times these people, they just don't care what they do to people because they don't think they're really harming the consciousness, the immortal spirit, the God in the body, the ghost in the shell, whatever you want to call it. There's been many terms for it, but they feel like they're the rulers of this realm, of the containers, of the vessels, and that had this power has been handed down to them by the Elohim, by the shining ones that came before and helped create this system. Now the Gnostics would call that, the Demiurge and his archons, and there's, of course, all through the ages, a lot of religions touch upon this. Regardless of what you think about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, they go really in depth into the true essence of us, of consciousness, and that the body is not the being. Okay, the body's just the clothing for the spirit. It's the vessel the spirit uses, and it's the headset. If you want to look at it video game terms, it's the headset that the spirit puts on to experience this realm. So it's really interesting stuff. The government knows all this. This is not like new information to the government. Now, they just don't want you to know this. Why? Well, because, folks, once you understand that you are an immortal spirit, that you are just a visitor here, that you are not a human being, okay? You're just playing a human being temporarily. A lot of times that makes people lose all their fear, because what's one of the most powerful fear-based mind control tactics used against humanity for thousands and thousands of years? Well, one of the major ones is religion, because they installed all that, folks. I've been trying to tell you this for a long time. Religion was designed to keep you in line. Okay, that's it. Religion was designed to keep you afraid, so that you'll be a good citizen, that you'll do everything you're told. You'll be a good slave. You'll work and work and work till the day you die, and you'll never have hardly any time or opportunity to go within, to explore yourself, your own consciousness, to come to the realization, like Buddha and Yeshua and many other masters did, that we are not physical beings, but we are consciousness playing human being, okay? And of course, Yeshua taught a major fundamental of the universe, and that the most powerful energy, or the most powerful force in the universe, is love. And why is that? Well, because love vibrates. It's a positive energy. It vibrates at a very high vibration. And so that love can push away the negative, the dark. And that when we are out of the body, our spirits actually truly come from a higher vibration dimension, a higher vibratory state, where there is no darkness and hate and all that. That is a part of this realm of dualism. I've been delving a lot, folks, into Robert Monroe, his teachings, and Tom Campbell, who was one of his acolytes, and a lot in the Monroe Institute and a lot of their work. And it's pretty amazing, folks. If you have not looked into that, you've got to look into it. They came up with a technique to do controlled out-of-body experiences, and they did it so much that they were mapping the other side, that they were meeting with, consciousnesses, if you don't like the word entities, right? Because, with Christians, everything's a demon. With Muslims, everything's a jinn. I mean, these people, it's because they're caught up in that fear-based religion, mind control. But they really break down what this realm is. The fact that there are beings here in this lower dimension that feed on source energy, what Robert Monroe and his institute called loosh. So if you've ever heard that word, from David Icke and other people talking about reptilians or aliens or demons like feeding off of Loosh, right, or the Archons. Well, that came from the Monroe Institute, at least that term, as far as I've found. But Robert Monroe was taught the nature of this realm, and that this realm was designed as an energy harvesting realm, and that there were entities that came and created this construct. And he doesn't go into why they need to feed off the energy. It was kind of like he explained it like it was like a drug, right? That once they started feeding off of it, they designed a whole system that would produce Loosh so that they could keep feeding off of it. Like they become almost like drug addicts to it, right? These higher consciousnesses that fell into the lower realm, that came to the lower realm. And so then they constructed these systems of plants and animals and everything that feeds off of each other. And because they realized when animals eat plants, it creates Loosh. When bigger animals eat little animals, it creates Loosh. But what they found was that these humanoids were more intelligent and had more source energy and had a higher consciousness. And so when they incarnated into these humanoid forms, right, pre-human, and then the human beings later on that were hybridized by the Elohim, that they were powerful Loosh creators, and everything we did. I mean, making love produced strong Loosh, going to war with each other created massive Loosh, like battlefields, just every day when we feed on animals and plants, we're creating Loosh. Yes, folks, it doesn't matter if you're a vegetarian, you're still feeding on source energy, and you're producing Loosh, as a byproduct, as an energy byproduct, that is. And these beings feed on that. And I've done videos on this, folks, talking about the Archons and these beings that feed off of energy. Like I've explained a simple analogy that anybody can relate to. Say you and your spouse or your partner get into a big fight, right? And you're just going at it for like an hour, and you both just finally, the fight ends, you go your separate ways into separate rooms or whatever to finally kind of let everything settle and chill out. And you ever notice how drained you feel? I mean, absolutely drained. Now, I want to make it understood, too, that, look, we can actually feed off each other's energy, too. So understand that, too. So when you're in a situation like that, there's going to be a little bit of that, too. But when you and your partner are having a big fight and you're, raging at each other and there's all this negative energy going, it creates like a Loosh cloud around you. And these beings, just like moths drawn to a light, they come and feed on it. So Earth is a farm, folks. It's a Loosh farm. Now, Robert Monroe did go to explain, because a lot of people are only going to tell you that much of what Monroe taught. It wasn't all negative, folks, okay? Yes, the demiurge and the beings that run this lower dimension feed off of Loosh, of our energy and our thoughts. And see, he even talked about how prayers and the spoken word and intentions, all of that creates Loosh also. But Monroe did go on to state that even the demiurge, the being that created, and he didn't call it the demiurge, that's from the Gnostic teachings, but they were teaching about the same thing essentially. He said that the demiurge figured out that yes, negative stuff created energy that could be fed upon. It created Loosh. However, the Archons and the demiurge came to understand that the most powerful Loosh to feed on was positive energy, was love. And so they ended up retooling their spiritual teachings later on, based off of the teachings of Yeshua, to try to bring a revival on Earth, a next level understanding of that love is a more, is better, way to treat each other with love and all that. And there was a reason behind that, folks. It's because that created more powerful Loosh for these beings. Like the more positive, like things could happen. Like for instance, say you go to a concert and everybody, it's a good artist, and a lot of people love this artist. They love their music, and there you have a real positive energy being funneled in like a stadium, right? Like or a musical hall or something, where everybody's gathered to listen, and they're applauding and they're screaming and they're dancing, and that creates a massive loosh generation. Even more powerful than like a battlefield does on the negative side, right? So they have figured out how they're human agents on this earth have figured out how to build buildings and structures in a way that it funnels our loosh. It funnels our energy. A lot of your old cathedrals were designed so that they would not only funnel prayer energy and all this, but they would amplify it with using these antennas and these kind of old Tartarian designs on the tops of the buildings and stuff. So this was all understood. Look, the Egyptian pharaohs understood this. The pyramids were energy devices, right? The Ankh was a device that could pull the energy out of the Wi-Fi energy that the pyramids were producing out of the air, and these Ankhs would resonate and amplify energy. So it gave these pharaohs like godlike powers and stuff. This has all been understood, folks, okay, for thousands of years. The Hindu Vedic texts talk about all this too. The problem is that 99% of humans don't know all this stuff because they don't care to know, because they believe in some sky daddy sitting on a throne in heaven, with a book of judgment, and a bunch of the lucky ones that are his good little children. They get to kneel around him and pray to him, holy, 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 24 hours a day. Sounds like a fantastic time, doesn't it, folks? Like, on their knees, do this God-demanding constant worship, right, and adoration. I've always made the argument that is actually more than likely a better description of the demiurge than of the creator God, right, the source of all creation. I truly believe that we are fractals of source, and that because we are fractals of source of the original creative force, these beings that have been ruling this lower dimension, this construct, for a long time, I think that they've been away from that source for so long that they need source energy to survive, and that's why they need the loosh. And the longer they stay here, the more dark they get. They weren't always dark beings. They were the shining ones. They were the Elohim, right? They were the ones that came to build this construct, this world that consciousness could come explore, and and in a new type of realm that also had a lower vibration to it, a realm of polarity of light and dark, positive and negative, and as a way for spirits to come learn. It was like a classroom being created, like a giant sandbox classroom for consciousness to come investigate, to come experience, to come to learn, to grow, and let's be honest, folks, I know this sounds weird and cliche, but a lot of times when people are having out of bodies or NDEs, right, they talk to consciousness on the other side. They've asked that question, well, why do we go to Earth? And it's always simple. They always say, well, a lot of spirits, consciousness incarnate on Earth because they get bored of pure love and light. It's like when you're in a realm that's always love and light and instant manifestation, maybe you get a little bored. You want to challenge, right? You want to experience a realm where you have to physically build things. Like, you can still manifest in this realm, but you manifest thoughts and ideas, and then you got to use the body as a tool to build, to create those thoughts and ideas, in this realm, and sometimes that's right, the written word and the spoken word too. because right now what we're doing, what I'm doing, creating this video, I am creating right now. I'm using my voice as the way to create. Now, some people, they may be carpenters or something. They're creating, an exquisite home, man-made or homemade, like, custom carved bench or something, right? Well, they had to think up that idea, and then they had to plan it out, and then they had to actually put their hands on it and invest the energy to actually create it, to work on it, to build it. And so we're always all creating all the time, folks. We are co-creators with Source. And see, these Elohim, they understand, they know what we are. And I don't know, in the ancient past, when they fashioned the human bodies, when the Anunnaki, the Anuna, hybridized the first Adam or Adapa, if they they knew, folks. I can't even question, did they know of course they knew what they're doing. Well, why? Well, because in the Atrahasis it tells you they understood that a body is just a vessel, that it needs the source energy, it needs consciousness, a spirit, a ghost to animate it. There's the whole story about how they had to sacrifice one of their own and transfer his consciousness into the body that they fashioned. So all of this is understood, and sorry folks, I'm just backing in here, and some goofball parked their vehicle at some weird angle here, so it's not making it easy on me here. Let's see, we'll give it I think I got it lined up good. I have no clue why they parked that way, but hey, we're just doing a little live action here, right? A little LARPing. Okay. So, we've gone over a lot, folks. I just want you guys to understand here before we leave that the whole Convidi thing, right, was a mass MK Ultra trauma-based mind control operation carried out on the whole world. They wanted to see the technocrats, these sociopaths in government, these sociopaths in medicine and science, they wanted to see how far they could take these techniques, and that if they could brainwash on a large scale humanity. And all this is being tested, folks, because of the AI and everything and transhumanism that they're bringing on us right now. And that this is all hand in hand, folks. This is all planned out stuff. They've been planning to do this for a long time. I think that's why Gabbard got fired, and why they're going to whisk those files away, because they don't want humanity, as humanity's starting to question and wake up about a lot of the stuff going on. They don't want a tsunami of this information being leaked to the public, proving that they've been doing this stuff, okay? Man, we might have to call this a part 1 of MK Ultra, folks. Let me pick this up tomorrow. I'm at work. It's going to be rough because it was a holiday yesterday. We get doubled up on at work after a holiday, so I need to really get in here and get going. Plus, I did a massive with my wife yesterday at the gym. They had this special workout yesterday. It was called the Murph. I don't know if this is like a nationwide thing or just a local thing, but it was based on some old U.S. soldier, and it was in his memory. And it was a hardcore workout. It was like running 2 miles, like 200 push-ups, like 360 squats, like 200 pull-ups. I mean, all this, it was ridiculous. I'm pretty dead today. But anyways, it was a good day. But now I got to pay the price for having a holiday off. So anyways, guys, hey, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I love to hear your thoughts. And remember, folks, I have the purple rhodolite garnet necklaces available. Hit me up. My Etsy is not letting me post it on my Etsy store I set up. I don't know what's going on with it. But we can still do a direct person-to-person deal on that. So hit me up in Messenger on Facebook or in the comments here, and we can I can explain to you what I'm asking, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to just shipping and handling will be included, trying to simplify it as much as possible. So you also get some sample larger rough garnets too. Besides the ones that come in the jewelry that are already, gem quality, crystal quality. So, anyways, very powerful talisman, especially for meditating or prayer, because it links your heart and your crown chakra. These purple rhodolite garnets. These are not your regular old blood red garnets, folks. These things are they go from a pinkish to a dark purple, like almost a Merlot purple. Some of them are that dark, but most of them are kind of a light purple, light to medium purple. So, anyways, they're beautiful. If you're interested in that, hit me up. Please share the videos, like and comment if you could, please. And I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later.